Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our Sunday afternoon stream. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you a gentleman that I found online. Tristan, welcome to our little corner of the internet. We are very glad to have you here. And yeah, we're going to talk about some interesting stuff today. First of all, don't you just want to introduce yourself and just tell us, what it is that you do on your channel and what people can expect to find over there?
Sure. My channel is called 21st Century Mind. It pretty much, if you're in the 21st century and you have a mind, I invite anybody, whether religious or non-religious, to let their voice be heard. My channel is dedicated towards a preterist community, the full preterists or the partial preterists. It's a group of Christians that believe that Christ returned already in 70 AD. It was that teaching, that doctrine that essentially led me out of the faith, as this teaching has done to many Christians. And so my channel is dedicated towards philosophy, science, even towards religion, even if it's critiquing it, cultural, anthropology, you name it. That's pretty much what my channel is dedicated for. But it is a skeptic channel. It's mainly for skeptics. So anybody who's in the atheist camp, anti-theist camp, skeptical, that's what my heart is at. But it's also dedicated towards the preterist community, whether you're Christian or non-Christian. It's pretty much just for humanity.
Amazing, amazing. So, let's jump into it. Tell us a little bit about your background. Were you raised in a religion? Did you grow up in a religion? Just tell us, what that journey was like for you.
Yes, I was born and raised in church, in a ministerial family. My
Me too.
grandfather. Okay, there you go. That's probably why we connected so good. We have such a kinship. Yeah, my grandfather was a pastor. My father was on a pastoral staff in a mega church. I was born and raised in a mega charismatic Pentecostal palace, is what I like to call it. A congregation of 3,000 strong every Sunday morning. We had a Bible college that started in the 60s, and it's still existing to this day. I used to teach at it. We had a radio station. We had a choir that used to tour the nation in the United States. Was very popular during the 90s, even during the 80s, I believe. And we had a high school. I mean, it was a mega church, the biggest mega church in our city. And so I was born and raised in this as a soldier for Christianity. My father was also a drill sergeant. So when you have drill sergeant and you have pastoralship coupled together, it's just yes, sir. Whatever the scripture states, you tell me to jump, I say how high. And so I felt that I was destined for this, that this was God ordained for me to, be a minister of the gospel, to willing to be a martyr for Christ. And so I grew up in the apostolic denomination, which within Christianity, the apostolics or the United Pentecostal Church people, very, very zealous, for what we dress. We don't go to movies. We don't go to bowling alleys. We don't play board games that have a dice in it. Our women, they don't cut their hair. 1 Corinthians 11, that's how they interpreted it. My mother, till this day, she's still a Christian, bless her heart. She still doesn't wear makeup. Our women don't wear makeup. We believe that was sinful. If you had a short sleeve, that's something that is ministers don't do. We don't wear shorts. So even if it's blazing hot summer, we're always wearing pants. And you name it. I mean, we were like the Hasidic Jews. You go down to Israel, you have the Orthodox. Yeah, it's just another level. And so that's what I was with it. Right. What's funny is my mother texted me yesterday. She asked me for a recent picture of me. She goes, "Do you have any recent pictures?" I haven't seen my mother in a few months. She goes, "I know my friend wants to see how you look like. She remembered you when you were a little baby." Now I go, "Okay, let me go ahead and see." And I have earrings in. I have tattoos, and I'm scrolling through. I go, I don't know if I could send my mother any of these without offending her, but so that's what I was born and raised in. I mean, this was what I look back and say this was a cult. And I know we just had a discussion not too long ago. I mean, it's leaving this cult is very liberating. And I tell Christians all the time, the grass is greener on this side. And you're talking to people who were born and raised in this, who know the ins and outs. And so, yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell. But that's what I was born and raised in. And essentially, it was the Bible itself that made me a skeptic. It's the scriptures. It's the stories in the Bible. It's these questions that go unanswered that essentially led me to skepticism.
Yeah, but you got to have faith. You've got to have faith. Lean not on your own understanding.
You know, that's the fallback for him. That's the fallback. Just
Yeah.
faithism.
So tell us a little bit about this journey of skepticism. Were there any key factors that led you to start this journey of questioning? Was it just like an aha moment, or was it a gradual process? A lot of people describe this as death by a thousand cuts.
Ah, yes, yes. Well, when I was a Christian, I was very fond of Christopher Hitchens and Bertrand Russell, the skeptics, Sam Harris. I felt as a Christian, you needed to have an apologetic, you needed to have a defense for those who question your faith. So I indulged myself in their literature. I absolutely was memorized and just amazed by Christopher Hitchens. He was my favorite atheist. He would bring
Yeah.
up arguments that I thought, my goodness, this I would never debate this man. And he brought up arguments that I used to think, how come Paul never brought up any of this? And if Paul were to have a debate with Christopher Hitchens, I still think Christopher Hitchens, I know for a fact, would
Couldn't wipe the
absolutely
floor.
silence. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and so I admired him from a humanistic level. And I remember thinking to myself, if I wasn't born and raised in this, and if I wasn't using faith, I would be a skeptic. So that cognitive dissonance, it can only last so far. But essentially, what really started leading me out, was the doctrine of full preterism. Who the leading voice of full preterism is Don K. Preston. He just had a debate with famous atheist Richard Carrier. It was on Myth Vision podcast. I actually sponsored that debate, cost me
Mm.
thousands of dollars because I wanted to see this man of God debate Richard Carrier. He wanted the debate. Nobody was financing it. And so Derek Lambert, who's an atheist now, we were cut from the same cloth. He came from full preterism, zealous Pentecostal Christianity. He reached out to me and shot me a DM. And I thought, oh my goodness, Derek Lambert is reaching out to me. I was starstruck. And so him and we connected. He told me about the debate. And I said, I absolutely would love to see this debate. But make a long story short, it was the ministry of Don K. Preston that essentially led me out of Christianity. And pretty much what full preterism is they teach that everything, all prophecy, was already fulfilled in 70 AD in the destruction of Jerusalem. So that means the return of Christ, the Antichrist, the battle of Armageddon, the great white throne judgment, the resurrection, the Lamb's book of life, all of that was for 70 AD. And so I started believing that, started teaching that because of Bertrand Russell's critique. Bertrand Russell was the one who was stating, look, Christ is a failed prophet. He said he was going to return in his lifetime. He didn't return. Even C.S. Lewis brought this up. And so what full preterism does is trying to save the savior from those time statements, from making him a liar. So I took this hook, line, and sinker. But essentially, I'll end it with this, that when you become a full preterist, then the question comes to mind, well, then what else is for us today? If we state that all the prophecy is fulfilled in 70 AD, then that means Christianity ended in 70 AD. There's
Right.
nothing
There's
else
no
for it.
carrot. There's no carrot in front of a stick.
Exactly, exactly. And it didn't take me long to see that. So then
Yeah.
essentially I go, well, then full preterism must be false. And I right now I hold to failed prophecy. I believe this prophecy has been failing humanity. It never occurred. 2,000 years, we're waiting on Christ, who's on the throne. We're just waiting for him to return and bring about this new heavens and this new earth.
Yeah.
So this is a failed prophecy in every sense.
He's like the baby daddy that went to go get milk.
That's it right there. I love that. I love that. That's great. I'm going to use that. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that, dude. Thank you.
So that's very interesting, this concept of preterism, because apparently I did just a cursory search, and I believe there are different types of preterism. There's partial preterism, full preterism, and there's even scriptural justifications for this. And then the conclusion here is that why it matters, because it de-emphasizes the future apocalypse, which is foretold in Revelation. It annihilates all rapture theories and more, all these modern prophecy speculations all go out the window. And it has implications for how Christians view things like Israel, the church, and the modern geopolitics. All of that play into it. So it's a very fascinating take. I don't know if you want to weigh in on that.
Oh, I mean, yes, absolutely. I mean, it's a complete turnaround, especially if you're a dispensationalist. Israel can do no wrong. I mean, I remember there was a famous preacher in our circles. His name was Lee Stone King. Anybody could YouTube him, search him on the internet. He was a pillar in the United Pentecostal Church. He had stated in our home church, he said, "I don't care if Israel comes to America and starts killing every single one of us. I will still side with Israel, the seed of Abraham." And I thought, my goodness, this is the type of biasness that's happening here. But that's what dispensationalism does, waiting for this rapture to take place. We're in the last days. And that was the sole basis of my ministry. My heartbeat as a minister was reaching the lost, knocking on doors, going down to juvenile centers and prisons and bringing people into the house of God. I mean, if we truly believe we're in the last days and this rapture theory is going to take place, you have to be zealous for this. But once
Yeah.
I was convinced, once I was convinced that Jesus was supposed to return in the first century, that the last days was in the first century, and that the New Testament is about Israel's last days, supposedly, that's when it all turned around. And I was persecuted from my pastors, my mentors.
Yeah.
My father didn't talk to me for a year. For a whole year, he didn't speak to me when I became a full preterist. So, that's pretty much it. It does take away the whole thing of there is no Antichrist. There is no 1948 Israel's restoration to the land after World War II had nothing to do with Bible prophecy, and it's
Right.
very, very controversial. But it's rising. The popularity of this is rising, and as we can
Yeah,
see,
because
God pressing.
I was reading about it, and the article that I ran across, I don't remember where it was, but it labeled it as a fringe as a fringe belief, some esoteric form of Christianity, which I said to myself, well, isn't it all like just a bit fringe and
Yeah.
esoteric?
Well, yes.
But fascinating nonetheless. You spoke about your hearing these atheists online and everything, but was there a specific person or an organization that was influential in this journey of deconversion? The straw that broke the camel's back, so to say, or was it completely an inside job?
It's a job. Like I stated, I admire Christopher Hitchens.
Yeah,
His arguments were just superb. Bertrand Russell was another one. The existence of evil is still to this day. If I could hang my hat on one of them, it has nothing to do with preterism. It's the existence of evil. And somebody could say, well, what in particular? The existence of evil happening to children. When
yeah,
I think about children suffering, and this is the old age argument, we've been talking about this for centuries in the human race. It still goes unanswered. Paul never talked about it. Peter never talked about it. Jesus never talked about the ontology of evil. And here are the Christians waiting for Christ to return to bring about a new heavens and a new earth. And yet here at this time you have child molestation, child murdering, child sex trafficking, and yet God can put a stop to it. We know these basic arguments. He killed Uzzah for touching the Ark of the Covenant. I tell this all the time to Christians. He killed Uzzah for touching the Ark of the Covenant, yet he won't kill a man for touching a little kid. And yet he offers grace and forgiveness to people who are murdering children. You have 58% of all deaths are due to hunger. And here's Jesus who turned water into wine. He multiplied the loaves and the fishes to feed the 5,000, yet here are children starving to death while Christ is on the throne, just waiting. What's he waiting for? So these old age arguments that we've been hearing for centuries, they still go unanswered. And I just believe that if any Christian, any Muslim, any religious believer would just be honest and just give an unbiased approach, that it would lead them right out of religion. And so I'm very thankful for men such as yourself who are former Christians, now skeptics, now atheists. I'm grateful for that. And yeah, I truly believe that we're in these last days where religion, we just may see the end of it in 100 years or less. That's what I'm hoping for. But that's in a nutshell. Yes, sir.
In
Yeah, you're
the
saying
name of
yes.
in,
Yeah.
from your lips to the spaghetti monster's ears.
Yeah.
Right. So, you, are you involved in any kind of activism? We always encourage, and when people hear the word activism, they immediately think of someone chained to a big bulldozer in front of a forest, but activism can be as simple as just being the opposition to a bad idea. It can be as simple as just drawing a line in the sand and saying, you're not imposing your religion on me here. It could be as simple as being an online voice that creates a space. Are you involved in anything like that?
Oh yes, absolutely. I've debated publicly and formally. That is how Derek Lambert, who's host of Myth Vision
That was a
podcast.
great debate that I caught of yours as
Oh,
well.
which
That's what
one? Which one
that's
was it? Which one was it?
the very last one that I reached out to you on. When was it? I just remember saying to myself, "Oh, that one that you had against Mahler."
Oh yes, yes.
It's the most recent one.
he's a young Christian. I respect him for trying to come up and step up to the plate. But he's not on that advanced level. But it doesn't matter what level you're on. I meet people at their level. I
Yeah,
went to Bible college, graduated from Bible college. I have a master's degree in this. And so it's not like you need to be
yeah,
academically sound to understand the Bible. The Bible is a seventh grade reading level. Nobody needs to go to a college to
right,
understand this.
right.
But men like you and I, we dedicated our lives to the scripture. We know these verses
Yeah.
in and out. But I have, as far as activism, I have an upcoming debate on the 31st against a full preterist. And I'm essentially going to tell this full preterist that your theology leads people right out of Christianity. And look, yours truly right here and many others. And so I do engage in formal public debates. Whether they could be a Christian, they could be Muslim, they can be, whatever, anybody who's holding on to a particular religion. But it's namely the Abrahamic religions that
Yeah.
I seem to, have this debating passion for.
And it's strange. They are the ones that are so particularly virulent. They infect people like a virus,
Yeah.
and the thing is, the funny thing is, I noticed that religion is the only other thing that behaves like a virus. And a virus, what it does is it'll infect its host at its own detriment. It'll go and it will infect an organism and ultimately kill and destroy the organism. But that's the nature of its life cycle. And
Yes.
religion behaves in the same way. Like these bad ideas go and they will infect one person and they'll spread in a population. And pretty soon, that population will be prepared to go to war with their enemy at some divine command from some prophet. It's crazy how that works, and it's fascinating to stand on the outside looking in, saying to yourself,
Yeah.
um, you know, observe here in action. People always say,
Yes.
like, what's the harm? Like, what's the harm? Let people believe what they believe. Leave them
Yes.
be. You're not harming anybody. But when people believe in mudman and rib woman in the garden with a talking snake 6,000 years ago, they teach their children to be stupid. They honestly,
Exactly.
they deprive their children of
Yes.
a level of an education and understanding that is required to be an active, productive citizen in this society. So
Yeah.
that is the harm that religion does. People always say, like, yeah, religion is not violent or whatever. Hello, look at history, and then don't even consider the harm that it does on a physical level. Consider the emotional harm that it does to people. It teaches people that they are worthless, that they have no
Yes.
inherent value, that they are not worthy.
Yes.
That kind of damage on a psychological level infects people with the sense of subservience. And I can go on about this for forever, So, um,
Yes.
uh, tell us, like, what are you passionate about now? Like, what is your specific outlook? A lot of people, when they leave religion or push it aside, they tend to focus on things like critical thinking, encouraging people to, be more outspoken. What are you passionate about now that you are on the
Yeah,
other end?
absolutely. I don't know if can you see me right now because I'm looking at the video and it seems to be pitch black.
You are frozen on my end, so
Okay, okay,
I can still
okay,
hear you. Do you want
okay,
me
let
to
me go
drop?
ahead and stop it.
Ye-
Yeah, let me see. I just turned off the video clip and now it's still pitch black on my end.
Uh, Let me try on my side to see if I can fix that. We've got your still on screen, so I don't know if you want to drop out and try to join again, or you're welcome to continue as is, because you are still audible on my end.
Okay. Hopefully it fixes itself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah,
Let's
I'm passionate for, still the truth, just like as I was when I was a Christian, still passionate for pursuing truth. Yes, critical thinking. I'm an educator. I have students that are Christians, and I respect people's faith for the most part. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But I'm still somebody who's still pursuing the truth. And I tell Christians this all the time. Well, I ask them this question. I say, well, let me ask you this. If the truth, if you discovered that the truth was to lead you out of the faith in Christianity, hypothetically speaking, if the truth was to lead you out of the faith of Christianity, would you side with the truth or would you lean on faith? And that one seems to, in my experience, it seems to get them to ponder. And that's essentially what my journey is. The truth is what led me out of the faith. And so people have to make a choice whether they're going to lean on faithism or they're going to lean on logic and reason. So yeah, I'm still passionate for academia. I'm passionate for debating, and sharing people what I believe is a new gospel message, in that, in a sense that hey, the grass is greener on this side, and
Yeah,
it turns out that the skeptics were right. It turns out that humanity is not born under a curse because Adam ate a piece of fruit thousands of years ago,
no,
and that it very much liberating on this side. So I'm still passionate for theology. I'm still passionate for philosophy and science.
yeah.
The journey is continuing. More passionate than ever before. So
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Hitchens earlier, there's a phrase that will stay with me until the day that I die, and I think it went something along the lines of "born sick and commanded to be well."
yes, that's it.
it's,
That's it. That's it right
uh,
there.
it's crazy.
Yeah. Am
Um,
I still am I still stuck?
yeah, you're still frozen on my end.
Okay. Do you want me to go back out and come back in?
Let's try that. I mean, I'm good. I'm good as long as we can hear you. But if you want to drop out and pop back in, let's do that.
Okay. I'll come right back in. Thank you.
Cool. Right. What an interesting conversation indeed. Right, there we go.
There we go.
Boom.
It
Back in
happens.
business.
I get it.
Back in
It
business.
happens.
So, I want to talk about the negative impact, and we did, I did mention a couple of things earlier, that atheists especially report things like constantly living in fear, having unrealistic expectations put on them, these feelings of being intolerant toward others, and then also ignorance in sheltering you from the world. And we have a lot of communities, especially, for example, like the Jehovah's Witnesses, and some more high control forms of religion that shelter people from the world, and prevents them from getting external information. And that all has a very negative impact on people's life. Now, this is not the norm. It's generally the exception. But I don't know if you want to reflect on any negative impacts that religion has had on you. For me, it was just this constantly living in fear. I was feeling like I was in a fucking surveillance state, in living in North Korea. you know, every step, every breath, I was like wondering if I'm going to do this, am I going to anger God? Like
Yes. Yes. Well, that shows that you were a true Christian, by the way. And it's typically the true Christians that are the most dangerous when it comes to debating and going against those who are really dedicated. But
Mhm.
yeah, you have to have the fear of the Lord. It's the beginning of knowledge in the book of Job, right? Yeah, you're
Yep.
commanded to love God. You're commanded to fear the Lord, with fear and trembling, right? But yes, some of the harm that religion has done. Well, I look back in my life and I had some good experiences in my life with Christianity. I met some good people. I've had some fun times. In not everybody gets to be born in a Pentecostal palace in a Bible college and being a minister there. I was fortunate to be there. I mean, I was sitting on a platform for years, Sunday morning, preaching, having this social connection, having this social network, evangelizing around America, Southern California, Kentucky, Michigan, New York, Arizona, you name it. I was all around the states for years doing this. I had some great times as a Christian. Some of the
Yep.
best times in my life were there, but I can't speak for everybody. I've known, Christians that have missed out on relationships, missed out on love and romance, potential partners because of denominational beliefs. If they didn't hold to your particular denomination, now they'll never be with that person again. That's one harm that it can do. Like you stated before, it can rob you of your self-esteem. It can rob you of your self-worth right from birth.
Mhm.
Constantly thinking that you're under some sort of sin curse. Just like how you stated, Big Brother. I know Christopher Hitchens. This was another one. You have Big Brother watching you, just like in North Korea, just constantly watching you. And every idle word will be held in judgment. Everything that you do, he convicts you of thought crime, right? I mean, even Jesus said, evil thoughts defile a man, Mark chapter 7 verse 21. I mean, I got that one memorized because I'm thinking, oh my goodness, evil thoughts. So now it's time to go on a 20-day fast with just water because I got these thoughts coming in my head. And so we're really trying to live out these Bible characters, really trying to emulate the life of Christ. But for me personally, I haven't had much harm as far as Christianity is concerned. I am appreciative of what Christianity has done in my life personally, and to me, I have friends who see exactly what you and I see, yet they still are in the Christian faith. Why? Because of that social network, because of that prestige, because of the platform, because of the money, because of the paycheck. And that was never me. If the truth led me out of the nomination and the paycheck, I'm going to follow the truth. One of the
Yep.
main doctrines that led me out of the full time ministry was the doctrine of tithing. That was one of them that I still to this day absolutely abhor. And I will go toe to toe with Christians on this doctrine of tithing, especially if you're a Protestant. This Protestant paradigm leaves no room for tithing. I mean, I was
Right.
born in a culture where if you didn't tithe, you were robbing God and you were going to hell. I've had my own pastor say this. And when we were taught in Bible college, the same thing. I would bring people to church and they would get baptized, they would fill with the Spirit, charismatic, but they weren't really sealed until they started tithing. I mean, that was indoctrinated in us.
Mhm.
When you're most gullible and impressionable as a little kid. And
Mhm.
so, yeah,
I
so that
still remember my mother. Every time that we went to church, my mother used to give me like a coin and put it in my pocket. And this is the money from the
yeah,
Lord. You're going to give this money to the Lord. And I
yes,
was wondering, like, wait a minute, I'm giving this money to the pastor. I'm not giving this money to the Lord. What you talking
that's it.
about?
That's it. Well, if I could say there is something that religion has done, I have a degree in theology. And so it's the lowest paying degree that you could have. So financially, it didn't do me much good. But at the end of the day, you still can make some money in
Yeah.
Christianity. I did make some money being an evangelist. We were getting one sermon. I'm talking, I was only 22 years old. We went to this one church and one sermon, we got $1,100 just for one sermon. This pastor was gracious. We were going all around getting it this way. We were promoting the Bible college. And so, but I would say maybe in the financial state, religion did harm me
Yeah.
in that. But that was years ago. But other than that, I could reflect back on my life. I have no regrets because it's
Yeah.
my experiences and my insight on theology where I can help people and lead them out. So I just refuse to go in my past and be bitter about anything. Because it's not like I was martyred. It's not like I lost a leg or anything like that. I've had Western problems, Western persecution, which you got to have thick skin in this business. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it.
It's crazy, yeah. In South Africa, we have this colloquial saying, "Job is job," right? which means you got to do what you got to do.
Yes, yes, that's right. That's right. That's true.
So that's why when people see a hooker on the streets, for example, they'll say, "Job is job."
Oh, yeah, okay.
So when
That's
I see a
nice.
pastor, I go, "Job is job."
Job is job, yes. That's funny.
Yeah, I like to ask my guests, just to reflect, upon their journey, and if you could look at a younger version of yourself, what advice would you give them? They always say hindsight's 2020. You always know in your current age what you should have done differently. And I mean, for me, my first lesson would be to myself is like, don't automatically trust people in positions of authority. They do not always have your best interests at heart. And what advice would you give to your younger self?
Hmm. What advice? I mean, that's a good one, trusting the men of God, trusting the ministers, trusting their insight. Goodness, what can I say? If I were to go back, I would say, hey, study full preterism. If that was it, study preterism. Because and it's definitely a teaching that has led many people out of Christianity. But it's
It's
not
a rock
intended
pool.
for. Yes, it's not intended for that. That's what makes it so ironic, was that it's intended to save the Savior from Bertrand Russell's critique and other skeptics alike to say that he is a failed prophet. But once you say that it's fulfilled, then the question is, well, what else is it for us today? I would also say, if I were to advise my younger self as a Christian, study other myths, study other mythological literature, study other dying and rising gods, Dionysus, Osiris, Solomosis, you name it. I mean, I'm a strong proponent of Derek Lambert's work on Myth Vision podcast. I think he's doing a phenomenal work. He's an absolute legend in humanity, because he has brought out the myth view, the mythological implications of the scriptures on a world-class platform. I mean, you have Bar Ehrman on his podcast. You have, Dr. Richard Carrier, some of the best professors in the best universities in the world, from Oxford, Cambridge, Yale, you name it. There's no other human being who has done this. And so to me, Derek Lambert is a legend in humanity. He's put it on a world-class platform where millions can see this now. And people are exiting the faith because they see that myth view. So I would advise my younger Christian self, study other myths, and you'll
Yeah.
see the parallels. And then you have to make a choice whether you're having a Bible superiority complex. Why are you elevating the Bible as superior than all other myths? Why are you elevating the New Testament miracles, all other miracles that we see, or the resurrection, and all these other tenets in the New Testament? You'll see their direct parallels, and that the New Testament gleaned these myths from already pre-existing myths. So that would be my advice to my younger self: is study other myths, study preterism, as well as study the skeptics. And essentially, you're going to have to make a choice. And I hope, hopefully, it will lead you out.
Yeah, amazing. What was the fallout zone like for you? Because there's any form of apostasy or dissent from the mainstream in Christianity is definitely like you dropping an atomic bomb. So what was the fallout zone like for you? Are you very open and public with this in your family circle and your friend circle? What were some of the challenges or conflicts, if any, did arise?
Yeah, there definitely did arise conflicts, especially when I became a full preterist. I was no longer a minister. That was one good thing. I didn't have to pay for my ministerial license fees every quarter, because now I knew that I'm already a heretic. Once I say Jesus returned in 70 AD, you're a heretic. And I stated before, my father didn't speak to me for over a year. I converted my mother to full preterism. But my mother and my father, they know that I'm in this skeptic world. They
Yeah,
just don't want to, fully touch it. I don't debate religion with my mother and my father,
yeah,
but my friends, All my friends already ghosted me when I was a full preterist, and I haven't spoke to them ever since. So they don't even know I'm a skeptic or an atheist. I'm talking well over 90% of my brothers and sisters of the Lord in Christ. They already abandoned me years ago, and that was
Yeah.
okay with me. But at the end of the day,
That's
we're
the
kind of
that's that's the thing.
territory.
People always say, "Oh, all my friends are going to abandon me," and all of that. And I go, "Good. That's good
Yeah,
because they weren't your
yeah,
friends to begin with.
that's true.
If this simple matter of what you believe is enough for them to abandon you as a friend, they were not your
Yes.
friend to begin with. So
Yeah.
good riddance of
Yeah.
bad rubbish."
Yeah. Well, they have the Bible to state that, that person's demonically possessed. How can you be friends with the world? They're free. So I
Yeah,
get it. You know what I mean? And I understand why they wouldn't want to speak to me because they think
yeah,
I'm full of the devil.
yeah.
And I tell them, okay, I'm going to tell you, if the devil exists and Satan was to appear to me, which I don't believe Satan is real, but let's say, granted, for the sake of argument, Satan is real. I'm not a Satanist. I am against Satan. If Satan is the one who's whispering in the ears of humanity, causing evil to happen, then I am against Satan. I pledge no allegiance. So how can a Christian say I'm satanic when I'm verbally stating that I would literally, if I could kill Satan, I would. And I tell Christians all the time, you want to know how to destroy Satan? They'll say how. I say, stop talking about him because he's only an imaginary figure. If all of humanity stopped talking about the devil and about Satan, he wouldn't exist in our minds anymore. That's how you destroy Satan. It's you
Mm.
Christians who keep bringing him up. It's you Christians who
Right.
keep giving him life. So just stop talking about him and you'll be a-okay. Gosh.
Yeah.
But anyway,
My
they
favorite.
look at you.
My favorite retort, is always like, "Oh, you guys are under the influence of Satan, and the devil's got his hand up your ass, controlling you like a puppet." And and I always say to them, guess who believes in the devil? Christians.
Yes.
Christians
Yes.
believe in the devil.
They believe in the
No,
devil,
I don't
right?
believe in the devil. I don't believe in the devil. Okay. Well, is the devil real? Yeah, he's real. Well, then you believe in him.
That's right.
Thank
That's
you.
right. Exactly. That was great. Yes. But that's
Right.
pretty much it. That's it. I mean, it's so that's pretty much where I'm at. I mean, at all any angle somebody would like to come at my arguments or listen, I'm just drawing upon other literatures. I'm not speaking about anything that has never been thought of before. We're simply echoing and carrying the mantle of those skeptics who have, in my opinion, intellectually destroyed this faith-based religion. And so I'm just happy to be a part of this movement in humanity.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's interesting. Um, so, have you encountered a lot of people on this journey of deconstruction, deconversion, report a significant shift in their worldview? For
Mm.
example, people become more tolerant of other people, or, for example, certain ideas are less repugnant to them without the baggage of religion filtering their worldview. Have you experienced any significant shifts in your outlook, or you pretty much still the same?
I mean, a little bit of the same. I don't believe that humanity's born under a curse anymore, and that there's no demonically possessed people. I think that it is sexually liberating. You're not waiting to get married to have sex, burn with passion. That's something that's very liberating now. Maybe views towards homosexuals. It's not so demonic anymore. It's you become more tolerant for people's civil liberties. Just
Yeah,
so long as they're not hurting others. As long as they're not. And I don't get into politics. I already have enough with religion and philosophy that when it comes to politics, I choose my battles and I don't debate politics. And I get it. Somebody should say, well, maybe you should because it's more in the here and now. I get all that. But I'm sort of a neutralist. I don't get involved in politics very much
yeah,
as
yeah,
for now because I've already have that's the two things you don't talk about in the family gathering, right? Holidays. You don't talk about religion, you don't talk about politics. So I've already
exactly.
picked my poison to deal with. And so at the end of the day, that's it. But yeah, I look at human beings much more purely now. It's not when you take away that biblical worldview, now you have your true, genuine self. And so it's
That's
very liberating. It's very liberating.
that's the thing, you know. It's I was speaking. We had a little atheist day meeting. Oh, happy atheist day! So by the way, it's 23rd of March. It's atheist day.
All right.
So
All right. Yes.
we had a little meeting beforehand, and we were talking about this, this concept of authenticity. And it is just, a lot of the people in that meeting were talking about how living your authentic self is more rewarding than trying to live this lie and trying to just trying to appease everybody and living your life in a certain way to fit into this Christian mold. But when you discard that, you get to be your authentic self and live your authenticity.
Yeah.
And that's the
Yeah.
thing that, especially now in the 21st century, I found that people tend to be more geared towards authenticity and authentic human action. Where
Yeah.
when I was growing up, it was all this veneer. Everybody slapped this glossy veneer over everything. Everything's fine. Everything's beautiful.
Yeah.
Everything's hunky
All
dory.
Pollyannish. Yeah.
That is strange. Yeah, we've got a question here from one of our other hosts, Sasha. She asks, are you a determinist or an adherent to free will? And this is her favorite topic.
Is, is she a theist? Is she a Christian by any
No,
chance?
she's an atheist.
Oh, okay.
She's one of our fellow presenters.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I was a Christian, I tasseled with this with Calvinism, Arminianism, because when you believe that God is omniscient, he knows all things, knows all the future, right? That means he knows who's going to go to heaven or hell. It's just as simple as that. There's no need to make it complicated. Romans 9 through 11, you have even Jacob and Esau before they did anything good or evil, right? They were already determined right from the womb on what was going to happen, right? The elder was going to serve the younger. So I held towards that Calvinistic, deterministic view. I think that when it came to the existence of evil, I had an easier time trying to defend God, that God created evil. Isaiah, I believe it's 47 verse 5 or
I
45 verse
form the
7.
light, I form the
Well, that right
darkness.
there, goodness, right there,
Yeah.
and then when it comes to free will, and I love using free will against the Christians because I go to suffering children. And I go, okay, so what about suffering children? And you'll see they go, well, he gave humanity the free will. And I say, well, children don't have free will to be murdered and molested. That's why they're victims. They have zero choice. This is why they are helpless when they're 3 years old, 4 years old. What free will did they have? They had zero free will. That's why they were violated. And then when you go to deformed babies with birth defects, where was the free will in that? You don't choose the genes in which you were born, but yet they're born this way. And there's absolutely no free will. And someone can say, oh, well, the parents did drugs or blah, blah, blah. Say, listen, this is crazy. I've known Christians who never smoked a cigarette, and yet their child is born with severe autism or a mental impediment, a physical impediment with zero free will on the child. And this is from the millions. And then when you have Yahweh putting his signature, most Christians don't even know it's even in the Bible. You have Yahweh putting his signature. He told Moses, who created man's mouth? The dumb, the blind, the lame. Have not I the Lord? Exodus 4:11. He told Moses, put his hand in his cloth, came out as leprosy. Told him, put it back in, came out as whole. So here you have Yahweh. I can't think of any other deity, not Zeus, not Allah. What other deity states, I'm the one who's proudly declaring that I created birth defects for suffering children and then labeling them as unclean. They can't come into the ark and approach the Holy of Holies.
Right.
So now you're commanded to be well, born sick, commanded to be well. And so when
Yeah.
it comes to free will and free choice, I just go straight to the children. There's no free will and free choice when it comes to
Yeah.
birth defects. And you mean to tell me this is intelligent design? What kind of intelligence is this? And it's been happening for thousands of years. There's absolutely no intelligence in this for a baby to be born suffering and then winds up dying in 2 years. Three-year-old kid what kind of glory brings will that bring to a creator? That's absolutely terrible. This is not intelligent design. And somebody could say, oh, well, it's man's fault. Why? Because Adam ate a piece of fruit. Now it had a ripple effect on the biology of humanity. This is the type of nonsense that we're teaching children, and it needs to stop in the 21st century.
Exactly. And if you look at it from a naturalistic viewpoint, that's what you would expect. That's what you would expect if you look at the world and you look at the state that it's in. It's completely explained by naturalism. But no, theists, it's like this one content producer online, what's his name? Taco. He says that Christians want to be the NPCs in the game.
Yeah,
they
yeah,
they they want to be they just want to be the NPCs in the game. And then it just boils down to this: non-playing
pretty much.
characters. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I hope that answers the question about free will. I do believe that we have a free will, in some sense, because this could go into our neurological properties. I know Sam Harris is one who, really gets, I don't know, he doesn't believe in a free will. I get all that. I can see maybe, did my brain make me do it? Did my neurons are making me do it? I get all those arguments.
Yeah.
That's not my field. I'm not equipped for that. But I do believe that we have some sense of volition,
What
and there
I
could be
would
limitations. There could be.
what I found fascinating, Tristan, which I think you should also look into, is there is a neuroscientist called V.S. Ramachandran, and they did studies on split brain patients. So that happened. That's a medical procedure where they separate the corpus callosum, which is the connecting tissue between the left and the right hemisphere of the brain. And
Mm.
what they then do is because the one center of the brain can work with linguistics, so it can talk and interact, and the other half can't, right? So what they'll do is I think they shield the person's vision or something, and then they ask a question of the one side, and then they ask a question of the other side, and they ask the person, "Do you believe in God?" And the one side of the brain, because they ask you to point to yes or no, right? And the one side went yes, and the other side went no. Right?
Mm.
So here you have, like Ramachandran said, you have a case that should have sent a shockwave through the entire religious community. Here you have a
Wow.
person who is an atheist on the one side and a believer on the other side. Fascinating stuff indeed. And that is,
Wow.
if that doesn't blow free will out of the water, because you literally have neurons dictating how the brain behaves. They've
Yes.
done studies in the timing. Like there is a literal delay from the time that you receive the input until the time that your neurons fire, and then the
Awesome.
time that you
Yes.
react. So there's a
Yeah.
there's a processing delay, and we don't experience it as does. We experience it as instantaneous reaction,
Yes.
interaction,
Yes.
reaction. So it creates this illusion within our brains that we are in control and that we're free. But there's a very good argument to be made that we are merely reactive. We are merely
Yes.
reacting to stimuli. But
Yes.
very fascinating conversation that can take us on a complete rabbit trail. I want to
Oh,
be
yes.
mindful. I want to be mindful of your time, and I've got a couple of a few questions left that I really wanted to ask you.
Perfect.
About resources, right? Is there any, you mentioned Christopher Hitchens earlier, but do you have any resources or, talks or books or anything that you can recommend to people who are on this journey of questioning religion, being skeptical about the whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think if I had to choose one resource, I would say Derek Lambert's podcast, Myth Vision. And the reason why is because it encompasses all the fields of academia, and it's coming from a former Christian, a zealous former Christian, from Derek Lambert. And to me, I would go directly to that. Why? It's visual, it's a click away. But as far as literature is concerned, yes, I mean, I would still state, Bertrand Russell, Why I'm No Longer a Christian. His arguments on the existence of evil are still, in my opinion, just legendary, and we all
Yeah.
know that they are. And anything from Christopher Hitchens, Sam Harris, Richard Dawkins, you name it. I think that these and anybody like them, I understand that these are high profile skeptics and atheists. But go on YouTube, look up debates. To me, debates, they help. People have different views on debates. I think debates help. It could just be that one moment where somebody said something or somebody made a point, and that one moment in that debate can stick with you for the rest of your life. So I would say, look at more debates with theists and atheists, and it's a journey. So that would be my resource. And of course, if I had to choose one, the Bible itself or your religious text itself, the Quran itself. Mark Twain made a very famous statement. Mark Twain stated, it's not what I don't know about the Bible that troubles me or that should trouble us. It's what we do know about that troubles us. And so it's the stories themselves. So I mean, if I had to really choose one source, just read it and you tell me, can any of this really be applied in the 21st century? Read the New Testament. Read the New Testament, and you tell me if any of this, it could be applied to us. But it's an indoctrination. And so, what can you say?
I mean, if I think about it, that zoo of heavenly animals and angels in Revelations, I'm telling you, that's a trip, man.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Seven-eyed,
Oh, yeah.
horned, nine-footed.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, you name it. I mean, it's that whole book. I mean, how do you interpret this? And it's like over 90% of the book, no Christian really knows what it means, and yet we're hanging our hat and putting our entire life on it.
What they say that John was isolated on the island of Patmos during the authorship of that, so I don't know if that kind of isolation, maybe there was no food, or maybe there was some weird something weird in the bird poop that affected his brain via a virus or something.
Yeah, just hallucinating, I guess,
Yeah, because it sounds like a trip. It really sounds like a trip. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Or, I often may even think it's multiple minds were, behind all this. It's just stating that it was authored by John, but it's like any theatric, dramatized literature, that has a theological motive. So yeah, I think I'm stuck again. Am I stuck again? Am I frozen?
You are frozen. Okay. But I think let's just motor through. We've got about 5 minutes. So in conclusion, how do you now engage with religious individuals or communities or people that come to challenge you now that you identify as no longer being part of the flock? Have you found ways that bridges the gap, that fosters respectful dialogue?
Yeah.
Or are you more of a you get what you give kind of guy?
No, I'm very respectful to people's religious faith. Like I said, my parents are still Christian. I'm not one of those that state, well, if I'm in a relationship, she can't be a Christian or nothing like that. I meet people at their level. I meet people at, if they're respectful and they're genuine, I'm respectful and I'm genuine. I by no means want to be nasty or ugly. I still have those same ethics that I had when I was a minister. I'm still the same person. I'm not going out wanting now to steal everything and kill everybody. I'm still the exact same person. So, I'm very respectful towards people's, faith and religious beliefs. And I meet them at their match. I meet them at their level. If they come to me with respect and genuineness, then I meet them at that same level. Like I said, I have students, young people who come to me, Christians, and, I tell them where I'm at, but I'm also very respectful as well. To me, I don't make any divisions. If you're a Christian, you're still my friend. You're still 100%, my brother and my sister in humanity. I don't treat anybody any differently. So, and like I said, my podcast is for anybody. If you're a Christian, you're still treated with respect. I will challenge you respectfully, but I know what I'm talking about. Men like you and I, we know what we're talking about. And so, yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at.
I'm just some idiot on the internet. You flatter me.
Far from that, I can assure you. Far from that, I can tell you.
Amazing. Tristan, I want to thank you for being so incredibly generous with your time, for waking up early on a Sunday morning
Thank you.
to come and chat with us. where can people find you on social media if you have anything to promote?
My channel on YouTube is 21st Century Mind. It is difficult to find, but if you
I'll
type
pop
in
a
my
link to
name,
it in the description
thank you,
of
thank
this
you.
YouTube video. Yeah.
Thank you. Or you could look me up, Tristan Gabriel. There's not many Tristan Gabriels that I've found on YouTube, but if you type in Tristan Gabriel, you'll see a few of my debates. I've had a formal debate with a Christian by the name of Dr. Sam Frost. And I actually have an upcoming debate on the 31st. So if you just type in my name, you'll see some of my links. And that's pretty much it. I do have a Facebook that I'm dedicated towards a preterist community. Anybody could look it up. It's called Preterist Perspectives, Discussions, and Debate. So if you're a Christian and you're interested in preterism, it's the #1 leading Facebook group of preterism. You have world-class scholars in this forum, and high-profile YouTubers and podcasters on this forum. So I would encourage anybody to go there, and that's pretty much it.
Amazing. Again, thank you for being so kind, and keep fighting the good fight, my friend. We'll catch you out there on the interwebs.
Yes, Dean, and I got to have you on my channel as well. I believe this is the beginning of a wonderful friendship, and I do appreciate you, and I highly respect your level of insight. And I'm looking forward to having more podcasts in the future with you.
Amazing. You've got my contacts, so just reach out to me anytime.
Will do. Thank you so very much, Dean. You're too kind.
Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.